Yeah, well, Rhaegar did fight valiantly and nobly and honorably and all that, and then he lost and died. Ha! So the real question is, will Daenerys end up buying all those unsullied soldiers? And how many? And more importantly, can she afford them? And can she withdraw the money before the banks close for lunch? Ha! Well, dear listener, the answer is given to us in the very first word of this chapter. Daenerys III, a storm of swords, of course. And that first word is all. There. So now you know. Daenerys has just relayed that offer to the interpreter, a young girl called Missandei. We will later learn, unless we've already been told her name. I can't recall. So yeah, Daenerys has just relayed that offer to Missandei so she can inform the so-called good masters. Great way George R. Martin chooses to open this chapter, by the way, as he often does. First, he gives us like a close-up, a peephole view, if you will. Just Daenerys and her interlocutors. And then, bit by bit, he zooms out. Like, for example, he gives us a description of Daenerys' attire. And here we go, let me just quote. She had chosen a Carthene gown today. The deep violet silk brought out the purple in her eyes. The cut of it bared her left breast. Do you know what? I think we saw that gown in question in the HBO TV series. I mean, minus the bare breast, because I think Emilia Clarke never bared her breasts in the TV series. Unless maybe in season 1. My memory is really faulty today, dear listener. But what I'm saying is that I remember the gown, the violet gown, you know. Whenever I picture TV Daenerys, I picture her in violet somehow. And boots, you know, those riding boots, Dothraki fashion, I suppose. Then we are given a glimpse of the sellers, the good masters of Astapor, because that's where we are right now. Daenerys has just dropped the bomb with them. She just told the good masters that she wants to purchase all of the soldiers they have. And while they are conferring and trying to figure out, you know, how much coin they can extort from her, she does her best to appear cool and in control, sipping tart persimmon wine from a tall silver flute, as you do. But where are my manners? I haven't even greeted you. Gentle listener, welcome to Daenerys 3 from A Storm of Swords, which is the big payoff chapter to that great setup POV chapter, which is Daenerys 2. And speaking of setup and payoff, this chapter gives us the payoff to what is probably the longest setup in history. This is the chapter where we find out the meaning of the expression Valar Morghulis. Okay, if you've read this chapter until the end, then you know that the expression does in fact mean all men must die. If you haven't read this chapter yet, what are you doing here? Just go on and read it, because I'm going to spoil the hell out of it. Be it as it may, will you allow me to go off on a major tangent just for a few minutes? I'm just set the book aside. I'd just like to spend a few words on why The Song of Ice and Fire is so much better quality than so much fantasy fiction or sci-fi coming out right now, at least in one respect. Now, you are probably listening to this in a better historical time. I hope so. But at the time I'm recording this, good quality products, or shall I say content, that doesn't condescend to their target audience, seem to be the exception rather than the rule. Case in point, Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2 has just come out at the time of recording this. Now, the series is of better quality than I expected and or feared, although I have only watched the first 3 episodes so far. But there's this episode episode 2 or 3, I think, which is a courtroom drama. I guess it compares okay with courtroom drama episodes from Star Trek, the original series, even though a defense attorney at some point does come up with a sentence, "A law doesn't make something just," which, really, in a court of law, you say something like that? Really? A little after that, the same character utters the line, "If a law is unjust, how are we to trust those who created that law to serve justice?" Yeah, darling, I think you're confusing the judicial with the legislative. Did you actually take the bar exam? But you know what? I'm willing to forgive all that. No. What pissed me off comes later. At some point, Commander Uma, who's the defendant, takes the stand and randomly quotes an old Starfleet motto out of the blue, ad astra per aspera, which, aside from being mispronounced and misquoted, because it's, the Latin proverb is actually per aspera ad astra, she is greeted by the judge's response, "Could you translate for the court?" I kid you not. Could you translate for the court? This line comes from the judge, who, please note, is a Starfleet admiral. And this literally 10 seconds before her defense lawyer asks her, "So why is that motto so significant to you?" At which point she goes, "I knew it means we have to endure adversities in order to reach the stars," which, you've just translated it. So yeah, you're just giving us the meaning twice. So we're given the translation of that Latin motto in the space of 10 seconds. You see what I mean? The Starfleet admiral presiding those court proceedings did say, "Could you translate for the court?" But out of universe, what she really meant was, "Could you translate for our idiot audience who couldn't be bothered to look up a 4-word Latin expression on their phones, or at the very least wait to see if they can figure it out from figure out the meaning from the context, or maybe just wait literally 10 seconds." And at the opposite end of the spectrum, we have A Song of Ice and Fire, George R. R. Martin, A Clash of Kings, which came out some 25 years prior to that condescending Star Trek Strange New Worlds episode, where the author just dumps a random expression in High Valyrian, Valar Morghulis, with zero explanations. No. Dear reader, if you want to be spoon-fed by the author and maybe have your mouth wiped clean with a bib, go read something else, Mr. Martin seems to say here, there in A Clash of Kings. And remember, this was 1998. Readers would have had to wait 2 solid years before finding out what Valar Morghulis actually meant. They would have had to wait to reach this very chapter in A Storm of Swords, which I am reviewing right now. And online forums for readers of the series were nowhere nearly as populated as they are today. No podcasts. No. You either learn to live without an answer for 2 years, or tried to somehow figure out the answer for yourself from the context. Yeah? No. Yeah, compare that. Okay, end of my rant. All right, I'm done. Let's go get back on track. Let's get back to Daenerys, who has just basically quoted Freddie Mercury and stated, "I want it all," as her answer to the question, "So, what part of our unsullied army do you wish to purchase, young lady?" And unlike last time, where only the exquisite salesman, Krasny's Naklos, was there, displaying just a sample of soldiers available in Astapor, now other masters are there, this time slavers. They're also there this time, gathered in the, what's it called, Plaza of Pain, Plaza, I highlighted that, Plaza of Agony, Plaza or something else, something or other. Plaza of Pride, that's it, Plaza of Pride. Now, Now, a first reader might guess that Krasnys must have called the other masters and told them, hey, whoa, 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 listen to this, yeah? Over drinks, in their cups, to use Martin's parlance. Okay, like, listen up, yeah. There's this woman from Westeros. She's loaded with cash, doesn't speak a word of Valyrian, and I'm in the middle of a transaction with her. Come along next time. I bet you'll be able to flog some of your soldiers. All right, whoops. Now again, poor choice of words. I bet you'll manage to sell her a company or two of your own soldiers as well. Come along, bring your Unsullied. It'll be fun. It'll be fun. We're gonna have a party afterwards. Ha ha. Yeah, you are indeed. Now, aside from various inaccuracies vis-a-vis Daenerys' description, just given here, her being unable to speak or understand Valyrian, or being loaded with cash and this and that. If you've made it to the end of this chapter, and I sincerely hope you have, because this is one chapter you definitely don't want spoiled. I mean, I rank it up there, along with that other famous chapter where Catelyn and Robb attend a certain wedding. Shut up. If you have read this chapter in its entirety, I was saying, then you know that all this is part of a plan. And clearly there must have been some sort of communication from Team Dany to Krasnys between the previous Daenerys POV and this one. Something along these lines. Hello, thank you for showing me the merchandise the other day. All those soldiers, they look lovely. They would look marvelous in my living room. I'll be coming back on Tuesday. We'll be looking to buy Unsullied in bulk. Please gather all soldiers available in town, as I'm a bit choosy, I'm a bit choosy. You know me. Looking forward to meeting you again, etc., etc. Sincerely, Daenerys. So now the good masters are all there, each with his own battalion, because up until now they were thinking, okay, so she'll want to select the soldiers she deems to be, the best ones, buy a company from this guy, another platoon from that other guy. I know, women and shopping, right? The masters were thinking, rolling their eyes. What they didn't expect was for Dany to want to buy everyone, that Gary Oldman meme from the movie Leon. So yeah, I realize I'm still on the very first word of this chapter. All right, so I better move on and cover some new ground. All right, dear listener, let's go ahead. I have read other reviews of this chapter, listen to that podcast, Not a Podcast, warmly recommended. And a big deal is made there of the fact that, unlike the previous Daenerys chapter, where Astapor was described as this positively hellish place, sulfur fountain, everything is a color of fire and blood, etc., slavery and misery. Right now, in this chapter, apparently it's also pleasant, cool green light filtering down through the diamond shapes. I'm quoting here, literally. Cool green light filtering down through the diamond-shaped panes of colored glass set in the sloping triangular walls. A breeze blowing gently through the terrace doors, carrying the scents of fruits and flowers from the gardens beyond. Probably to give it a starker contrast. But you know what? To be honest, I didn't really see this contrast. Even in the previous chapter, Astapor was described as a city of pleasures for some, not for everyone, to be sure. Allow me to quote Miss Sunday. Astapor is most beautiful as dusk, Your Grace, said the slave girl. The good masters light silk lanterns on every terrace, so all the pyramids glow with colored lights. Pleasure barges ply the river Worm, it's the name of the river, playing soft music and calling at the little islands for food and wine and other delights. So yeah, It was always a pleasant city for those who happened to have been born to the right families, the privileged masters, and if they were willing to ignore, that their society was built on slavery and human misery. The kind of city where you can enjoy a great meal if you pretend not to hear the screams of someone being tortured in the kitchen for spilling some wine. There, Astapor in a nutshell. And no breeze or scents of fruits and flowers can change that. Anyway, so in order not to be outnumbered by the good masters, of which there are 8, each with 2, 3, or even 6 boy slaves attending to them, Team Dany is all there. Everyone is accounted for. Whitebeard and Belwas, Jorah Mormont, the handmaidens, Iri and Jiki and Jikwi. Is that how it's pronounced? The Blood Riders from Dany's Khalasar. Each of these masters has brought 1,000 soldiers, all there in the plaza. Must be a pretty large plaza. And then he confirms, yep, I want the 8,000 soldiers, the 6 centuries who haven't joined us today. What a Roman kind of term, the centuries. And the ones still in training as well, I want those. And the ones who have not earned the spikes. Everyone! Told you. So these good masters are all there, and they're almost all called Grazdan, popular name apparently, and they're discussing the pros and cons of parting with every single soldier currently in storage. Pro: enough profit can be made from this single transaction to see them through for decades to come. Con: the soldiers still on training haven't even passed the final exam. Killing a suckling, just the standard exam to suppress any humanity left in them. So, how are these soldiers going to perform on the battlefield? The reputation of Astapor's unsullied army is at stake here. But then again, who cares about reputation? Money's money, and so on and so forth, And no one, not one of the so-called good masters is pointing out the obvious objection. Namely that once all unsullied soldiers are given away, the city will be left without defenses. Because as a resident army, that's one duty performed by the unsullied: protect the city from external aggressors. That we found out from that bit of exposition that Jorah Mormont gave us in the previous Dany chapter. So there. A little more haggling, takes place. The bottom line always being, how much? Can you afford it? Other slavers chip in, slightly more politely than Krasny's, who was downright insulting Daenerys to her face in the previous chapter, thinking she didn't understand a word. So they say to her, okay, well, what kind of collateral do you have? Are you sure you want to pay the full price for boys who have not completed their training yet? And this and that. And where are you going to house the puppies they haven't murdered yet? They're supposed to murder puppies. It is the ultimate evil, If you want to portray some characters as evil, why don't you have them force people to kill puppies? Because why not? So sorry, I shouldn't be laughing, I know, but because I'm thinking of a scene in Family Guy. There's an evil corporation. They're all engaging in their evil laugh, and then one of them just randomly grabs a puppy, throws him up in the air and shoots him. Why? Because we're evil, in case you didn't notice, dear viewer. So anyway, what are we going to do with all the puppies? Think of all the excrements you'll have to clean up, and so on and so forth. The point being that accountants on the slavers' payroll have already been aboard the 3 ships that took Dany here to Astapor, appraising all the merchandise, the cargo, including the ships themselves, the Balerion, the Vagar, I think it's Vagar, and the Meraxes, all included. The value of the lot barely adds up to 1,000 Unsullied's worth. So it's at this point that Daenerys drops another bomb. You may have one of my dragons. Dun, dun, dun. You could hear a pin drop at this point. Whitebeard, who was always against this transaction the whole time, nearly throws a fit. No, your grace, no. But Daenerys has him removed, and he's still going, no, fading out, as Jorah drags him away and is leaving 2 skid marks on the ground with his heels. No. And he's out of the equation. He's not heard from since. Because a dragon, is a formidable weapon, not to mention there's only 3 in the entire world. So the price of one is incalculable, unfathomable, a word like that. Plus the Giscari remember from their own history that every time they took a beating from the Valyrian freehold was because the latter had dragons. So yeah, there's that. And anyway, so the deal is done. Ships, cargo, Drogon, the big black mean dragon, biggest of the 3, in exchange for every single slave soldier currently in Astapor. And I'll tell you what, goes Krasnis at this point, who's suddenly feeling generous. I'll toss in the interpreter Missandei for free in the bargain, because you'll need her until the soldiers learn your savage language. So there's nothing left for them, for Team Dany, than to go back to the ship and fetch Drogon. And Daenerys feels terrible, of course, but she still has to give Arstan the Vito Corleone little speech. Listen, old man, yeah? Never speak your mind outside the family. Contradict me in private if you must. But he goes, but your grace, surely you know that 3 dragons were ample and sufficient to your ancestor Aegon to conquer the whole continent. And now you're giving one away? And, dude, she goes, my strategy is different. So, yeah, live with it. And then she turns to Missandei and asks her name. You see, we didn't know the girl's name at the beginning of this chapter. Okay, we learn it now. But the point is, Daenerys asks Missandei what her name is in Valyrian, which surprises the hell out of her, because she thinks, wow, this gal understood Valyrian all along. Although, to be fair, really, what's your name is literally the first thing you learn whenever you take formal lessons of any language. You open any foreign language textbook, and introductions is always the title of unit 1. What's your name? Comment vous vous appelez? Comment se llama? Ma ismik, shizmik, whatever. So for all we know, Daenerys might have just sat through session 1 of a Valyrian 101 course back in Westeros, But anyway, so Dany goes, yeah, listen up, Missy, yeah? I'm taking you in, but not as a slave. I'm taking you in as a handmaid. How'd you like that, huh? With maybe some minor clerical duties, because you speak the languages and you know how to read and write. But you're free to stay or you're free to go. All I can give you here is food and accommodation, which isn't bad. So it's up to you. But Missandei is okay with the deal. She goes, yeah, sure, I'll stay. better than a kick up the old tush, I suppose. But then he has to elaborate, add some caveats, but it's not going to be smooth sailing all the way to King's Landing, At some point, things might get rough, which you might have inferred by the fact that I'm buying an army. Hello. And it's at this point that Missandei goes, oh yeah, well, what are you going to do, right? Valar Morghulis. Yeah, I know. Oh, damn, what was the... And Valar something or other is the reply. All men must die, all men must serve. Yeah, I lost my... Yeah, all right, I'll find it later. I don't want to waste your time. You already know what that... Well, you already know what the appropriate response is, which Arya still doesn't know at present, but maybe she'll learn it. Arya Stark. And then, amidst various other bits of exposition, Missandei gives Dany some more info. You know, she reiterates that the reason the Unsullied feel no pain is because they're on drugs, or rather, they're given a potion with every meal, which is kind of like what makes them immune to physical pain, I guess. And there it is. There's a deadly nightshade, bloodfly larva, black lotus roots, and many secret things. You know, shaken, not stirred, served with a lemon twist or a glazed cherry, depending on your taste. But in the middle of all that, Daenerys asks her something interesting. She goes, so what, if I should conquer my throne with this army of Unsullied, and then once I have no more use for them, and should some other third party acquire them, purchase them from me, could they be used against me? Even after, you know, I was their master for many long years? And Missandei goes, well, like, duh, yeah. They will do anything their legitimate master tells them to do, without question, no matter who their previous master was, which is a very interesting piece of information to be stored for later. You know what I'm talking about, right? If you've read this chapter till the end, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Next, George R. R. Martin borrows a page from Snoopy, literally, because he writes, it was a long, dark, windy night that followed. Okay, so a whole night follows. It's a paraphrase, you know, because Snoopy, you know, there's Peanuts, Snoopy. What's his name? Charles Schultz? Because Snoopy's favorite opening sentence, you remember, he used to type it every time he wanted to get started on his novel. The sentence was invariably, it was a dark and stormy night. LOL. It was a dark, bad writing night. Anyway, so Daenerys has yet another argument with Groleo, you know, the captain of those three ships that Illyrio sent out to, was it... oh my God. Karth. Yeah, that's right. Sorry, I had a short amnesia back there. And it was supposed to take Daenerys back to Pentos after, you know, making various stops to sell the cargo. And Groleo, let's not forget, this mini fleet, this ships, also has a crew and a captain. You know, so Groleo is reasonably all concerned. What's going to happen to me, man? Am I supposed to hitch a ride back to Pentos, to my employer, Magister Illyrio? And what am I going to tell him when I turn up with no ships or cargo? I suppose I could fill in an application with the good masters. They don't look so good to me. Yeah, anyway, so Illyrio wouldn't approve of you giving away these ships. Plus the cargo. That stuff is not yours to spend as cash, you know. That ain't fair. And so on and so forth, to which Daenerys just goes, well, tough shit, because you know what? Illyrio isn't here, so roll with the punches, my good sir. And she storms out like a character from a telenovela, from a soap opera of sorts. And Jorah Mormont immediately catches up with her, because friend zone guys always have a funny way of being just around the corner, don't they? And he goes, Khaleesi, always in his, you know, emphatic tone. You should, you ought to be asleep, Khaleesi. Tomorrow will be hot and hard. I promise you. You'll need your strength. You'll need your strength. Hot and hard. That's not what I've heard. All right, sorry, I am just being childish here, but no, let's get serious, because we're about to broach a tragic subject. Actually, do you remember Eroe, the Lazarene girl? Okay, I'm just going to quote Daenerys here, straight from the text. No, it's right here. She goes, no, okay, right. They were raping her. That's what she says. But I stopped them and took her under my protection, this Lazarene girl named Eroe. Only when my sun and stars, that's Drogo, was dead, Mago took her back, used her again and killed her. Ago said it was her fate. And Daenerys here has just summarized this poor girl's character arc, which spans 3 chapters in Book 1, Game of Thrones. Daenerys 7, 8 and 9. And Ago's comment makes me think it was her fate, etc. Makes me think, and maybe that's what George R.R. Martin also had in mind, it makes me think of that scene from Lawrence of Arabia, David Lean, 1960 something. And there's this boy from Lawrence's ragtag Arab army that T.H. Lawrence saves, a boy whom, I should say, T.H. Lawrence saves from dying in the desert because he got lost, I think, and so he risks everything to go back, find him, rescue him, while everyone else is just going, nah, leave him to his fate. He couldn't keep up with us. That's his problem. He shouldn't have joined us in the first place. But Lawrence won't have none of that. So he goes back just the same and rescues the boy after risking his own life. And to cut a long story short, sometime later, someone in Lawrence's army discovers that there's a thief among them. So Lawrence is called upon to execute this thief, even if the punishment seems a bit, just a tad too drastic, shall we say. But he has to carry out the punishment himself, nonetheless, to maintain discipline, to show that, he's a ruthless leader, not to show weakness, and so on and so forth. And, of course, David Lean zooms in on this thief who's about to be executed, and lo and behold, it's none other than that same boy. And now Lawrence has to kill him, which he does. There, I just spoiled you part of Lawrence of Arabia. Sorry. But now, okay, the point being, Daenerys' situation is different here because at least her hands are clean, as far as Eroe's demise was concerned. But the point she's trying to make is, what good is a monarch if he or she cannot even protect the subjects? Which is a very good point. A point that will be explored again later in this book in a certain interaction between Davos and Stannis with incredible outcomes. But no spoilers. I don't know if I've already said that. I'm struggling not to give you any spoilers, but because my policy in this series is that I will only be looking back in the books, what's already been written and what we have read up to now. I'll be looking back and not forward, not ahead. So no spoilers from me will be I will endeavor not to give out any spoilers. I will only go as far as the end of whatever chapter I happen to be reviewing. Anyway, so later on that night, Dany dreams she's fighting on the Trident. She dreams she's Rhaegar, the brother she never met. And she's riding a dragon. Now, at first, she thinks she's identified her enemy host as the usurper's army, Robert Baratheon's army. So it would seem that she's fighting the Battle of the Trident all over again in her dreams, which she never did personally. She was a baby. However, she looks closely and notices that the armor the enemy host is wearing is made of ice, which the dragon melts with one breath, without breaking a sweat. And that's interesting because does that mean that we'll eventually see Dany's armies fight against an army of White Walkers? The others, capital O? Now, be it as it may, she's woken by a Skype call from none other than Quaithe. Yeah, that's right. Remember her? No one quite knows what Quaithe's deal is. Daenerys met her back in Clash of Kings, Daenerys 1, along with merchant prince Xaro, Xon, Daxos. Gotta love these Carthene names. And the warlock Piet. Now, those two other characters, as part of that leg of her journey, their motivation was sort of clear. They were after her dragons, pretty much. They wanted to keep her and exploit whatever magic they thought Dany might have, given that she had the power to hatch dragon's eggs. I think. Actually, scrap that. The motivation wasn't really all that clear, because Xaro eventually turned up to want to marry Daenerys, even though not for love. We know that much. And the warlock, Piet wanted to trap Dany in the House of the Undying for unspecified reasons. Be it as it may, even less clear are Quaithe's motivation, not to mention what the heck she was doing in the company of those other two in the first place. Because those three traveling companions have nothing in common. Anyway, so I said Skype call with Quaithe because really, she's not physically on the ship, She appears to be there in the same cabin through some kind of magical remote connection of sorts. And every time Quaithe appears to Daenerys, she always has some cryptic advice for her. Like last time in Clash of Kings, Daenerys III, she said this to Dany. You must leave this city soon, Daenerys Targaryen, or you will never be permitted to leave it at all. And then, to go north, you must journey south. To reach the west, you must go east. And it's kind of like in Labyrinth, that movie directed by Terry Jones with Jennifer Connelly. So to reach the west, you must go east. To go forward, you must go back. And to touch the light, you must pass beneath the shadow. At which point, she disappeared into the crowd. And as far as I remember, that was the last time we saw her. Now, this pass beneath the shadow business was interpreted by Daenerys as meaning she had to travel to Ashai. I'm not going to pronounce it as high, right? No, it's not as high. It's Ashai. A lot of other commentators pronounce it Ashai, which is this mysterious city in a region known as the Shadowlands, appropriately. So the city is often called Ashai by the shadows. And Quaithe kind of confirmed this. Yep, that's where you'll find the truth. All right. And now Quaithe visits Daenerys again. And guess what she says? Remember, to go north, you must journey south. To reach the west, you must go east. To go forward, you must go back. And to touch the light, you must pass beneath the shadow. Yeah. Okay. I think you kind of said that before. Any new info? At which point, Quaithe disappears again. Yeah, she does that. Is this just the old just a dream trope? Who knows? No, but the reason why George R.R. Martin chose to show Quaithe again in this interaction, if only to have her repeat the same advice, albeit minus the reference to Ashai. The reason is, in my opinion, and not just mine, twofolded. On the one hand, it reminds the reader about the character. She's still there, yeah? Even though she might be on standby right now. But, she's going to be displayed and deployed again at some point. So put a pin on her. Don't forget, she's there. And secondly, it would seem to introduce this technique of Skyping, or should we call it remote viewing, really, because it's not technology, it's more like magic, really, through an artifice or a device that will be better explained in a future book. Now, it's a minefield right now if I want to tell you more about this device. Because in order to navigate through the spoiler sort of minefield, I'll tell you what, I'll just make references. I got them all here. I'll just make references to past books in the series. This remote viewing thingy is a technique that might or might not be known among magi, however you want to pronounce it. And this Quaithe may or may not be a mage. There, I'm going to pronounce it mage. Quaithe may or may not be a mage herself, but the first time we encountered a certified mage was in Book 1, A Game of Thrones, in the person of Mirri Maz-Dur, who had this to say: "When I was younger and more fair, excuse me, I went in a caravan to Ashai by the Shadow to learn from the mages." Oh, so mages operate there, or maybe they go there for training. I think I read somewhere in the World of Ice and Fire, which is all very well and good, but she goes on to say that she also learned some secrets from a certain maester from the Sunset Lands, Westeros, a maester from the Citadel named Marwyn. At the time, Jorah Mormont, not knowing the name Marwyn, no reason he should, greeted the information with skepticism. Said, yeah, right, a maester in Ashai. Until Mirri corroborated this by describing Marwyn as wearing a chain made of different metals. And he has, so let's bear this fact in mind, because this Marwyn is a character we might encounter later. And he has probably mastered this art of remote viewing with the help of a mysterious device, of which I will not speak now, because we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Okay? Anyway, back to Daenerys. Cut to the next day. We are back in the Plaza of Pride, and as if to disagree with Quaithe's advice, to go forward you must go back, her first thought in this part of the chapter is actually, if I look back, I am lost. There. For this particular occasion, Dany has chosen to wear horsehair pants and painted leather vest, a bronze medallion belt about her waist, and 2 more crossed between her breasts. A bit more garment porn from George. Not as interesting as food porn, but yeah, it's fun. It's a fun sort of world building. However, more worthy of note, check this out. A tiny silver bell is hung in her braided hair, which we know to be a Dothraki warrior tradition. 1 bell is attached to your hair for every victory you score in battle. And in Dany's case, this one victory in her resume was against the warlocks in the House of the Undying, back in Karth, which, climaxed with the dragons burning the whole damn place to the ground. Also, she's riding her horse, Silver, this time. So what's going on? One might think Daenerys is ready for battle. No persimmon wine for her today, and her whole entourage is with her, same as yesterday, with the new addition of Missandei. Arstan, a.k.a. Whitebeard, is not mentioned. Did they leave him back with the ship? I think they did, actually. And the dragons are being transported, chained to the floor of a litter with the top removed. Sort of like a convertible sports car. So everyone can admire them, including all slavers watching from their terraces on the pyramids. Ooh, check them out. Kind of like in Karth, where everyone wanted a peek at the flavor of the millennium, So the square is packed, almost. Do you know, guys, I would stand back. I would stand the hell back if I were you. Even without reading the ending of the end of this chapter. I mean,
These three dragons have grown rather large, and yes, they might be chained up, but they can still spit fire. So, just health and safety is all I'm saying. And because the Unsullied host is too huge, now they've gathered all of them. All of them. The soldiers have actually been placed in formation in an adjacent square. An interesting place called the Plaza of Punishment, which is there for the purpose, well, exactly as you imagine. It's a place where slaves get tortured and executed. And it's right at the entrance to the city. So it's the first thing a newly arrived slave gets to see upon entering the city. Just in case we readers were in danger of forgetting that this is a place of horrors. Oh, and the Unsullied 8,600 plus the 5,000 still in training. Is it really as many as that? Is it 5,000 or 500? I forgot. Anyway, all of them, all right? All of them, everyone. They're all in formation facing the city door, so they can march out as soon as the purchase is done. Or so we're led to believe is the official plan, And the masters, the good masters, as they like to call themselves, who on paper own the Unsullied soldiers and are about to sell them, they are there. They're Krasny Naklos is kind of like the leader, we're given to understand. And he's the one holding the whip, which is used to command the soldiers. So he goes, all right, man, let's see the dosh, meaning the cargo. Let's see the green, cough up green, ma'am. Whatever payment in kind that was promised in exchange for the soldiers. So Jorah orders to get it all unloaded here at the good master's feet. And it's huge, the cargo. I don't think we had a list of the cargo in earlier chapters. Maybe just some brief mentions. Do you want the full list? Here. 6 bales of tiger skins, 300 bolts of fine silk, jars of saffron, jars of myrrh, jars of pepper and curry. Curry, I'm guessing turmeric, or maybe it's an actual blend of turmeric plus other spices. Yeah, possibly the latter. Oh, and cardamom, of course. This is very Middle Eastern so far. Middle Eastern, Indian, an onyx mask. 1. 12 jade monkeys. Oh my God, the jade monkeys. Yeah, like in that Simpsons episode. Find the jade monkey before the next moon's turn, says Mr. Byrne. Okay, what else? The casks of ink in red and black and green. That must have been, rare to get hold of. A box of rare black amethysts. Precious gems, stones, a box of pearls. A cask of pitted olives stuffed with maggots. In the middle of it all, there always has to be something gross. If this was a find the odd one out sort of game, I think I found it. Because I wouldn't much care for that, Unlike Brian's mother, Life of Brian, instead of saying, don't bother with the myrrh next time, I'd say, no, leave the myrrh. Myrrh, gold, incense, myrrh, frankincense, leave it all. You can keep your pitted olives stuffed with maggots, really. Not my cup of tea. Anyway, what else have we got? A dozen casks of pickled cave fish. Cave fish, interesting. A great brass gong, and a hammer to beat it with. All right, yes, I guess that makes sense. Those things have to be sold together. 17 ivory eyes. Like, ivory eyes. Ivory, like, eyeballs? And what are they used for? Is it to play pool on a snooker table? What on earth? A huge chest full of books written in strange tongues. Okay, those are always valuable, They look good on your shelves, regardless of whether you can understand the language or not. Or they're good as antiques, you can sell them. Okay, so what can we infer from the cargo? There seems to be a lot of Middle Eastern goods here. But with the exception of ivory, not much soap elephants. Not much in terms of things that we in our world would find in either India or Africa. Middle East, yes. MENA region, Middle East, North Africa, yes. But Sub-Saharan Africa or India, not much. See, because my point is that there's no coffee or tea. In a cargo like that, you would expect there to be coffee and tea if it was available in this universe. So I guess it's not. Also, you would expect there to be what's it called? Carcadilla. I didn't see any carcadilla. Oh, what's the name? Carcadilla. El Carcadilla in the Middle East. The purple. Oh God, what's it called? Hibiscus. Yeah, there ought to be lots of hibiscus there. If you've got cardamom and all those, the peppercorns and all those things, Well, I guess they didn't get that. They didn't get that. There's no hibiscus. All right, so that's the cargo, and it's all there. And Krasny's all like, the green ones, the green soldiers, yeah. I would advise you to have them sack a few cities between here and Westeros, just get them used to a bit of murder, plunder, and whatnot. Oh, Krasnys. If you only knew how soon that's going to happen. Then he goes on, and unless I'm very much mistaken, there remains a final part of the bargain, a certain dragon, if I recall. So Daenerys takes, the end of the chain that binds Drogon and hands it to Krasnys, who in turns is supposed to hand over the whip to her. So they engage in this sort of awkward, okay, no, you take the, no, wait, no, tell you what, give it a chain, wait, now, you first hold my tokar. So they go on like that for a bit. And then the whip is finally in Dany's hand, which means that she is officially the new owner of I've already forgotten the exact number, of a large number of slave soldiers. And this whip, the whip is black. It's got gold pommel. Sorry, it's gold pommel shaped as a woman's head with pointed ivory teeth. The handle is dragon bone, elaborately carved and inlaid with gold. 9 long, thin leather lashes trailing from it, each one tipped by a gilded claw. Exquisite object, except for being designed to inflict pain. So it kind of summarizes Astapor in a way. Anyway, the deal is done. So Krasnys is holding the chain that's binding the dragon and giving it a few pulls, to let Drogon know, hey, we're your new masters now, all right? And then pull, clink, clink, clink. While Daenerys turns to her shining new army, of which she is now the proud owner, legitimate proprietor. And she tells them, all right, fellas, you belong to me, okay? You're the dragon's army. Welcome. And she says all that in High Valyrian, which shocks the hell out of the other masters, Grazdan, because, this time she's not just saying basic things like, what's your name? Nice to meet you. The pennies on the table, etc., etc. So meanwhile, Krasnys doesn't even notice that she spoke High Valyrian, busy as he is trying to play with his new toy, what he thinks is his new toy. So Daenerys turns to him and goes in Valyrian, you seem to be having some kind of trouble there. To which he responds, he's not even aware they're having this conversation in Valyrian. He goes, yeah, he won't come. What's the matter? Is he broken? And that's where it all happens. Like all twists in this series, described by George R. R. Martin at a fast pace, which makes you go, oh? And then you have to reread the paragraph to make sure that you really read what you read. Okay, so first Daenerys goes, yeah, I'll tell you what the issue is, mate. A dragon is not a slave. At which point she slashes the hell out of Krasny's face with a whip. Shush. Right after that, Do you remember when in the previous chapter, Dany showed that her dragons had learned to incinerate or cook their meat at the command Dracarys, which means, fire, burn, or something. Yeah, well, that was the setup for this marvelous payoff, because this is when Dany doesn't simply command, but shouts, Dracarys! At which point, Drogon turns into a flamethrower and spits out a jet of scorching fire that literally melts down Krasnys, you know? So this is a fire like flamethrower, like Leonardo DiCaprio when he's incinerating Nazis in the movie within the movie in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Krasnys melts again like one of the Nazis at the end of the Raiders of the Lost Ark. So yeah, the Nazis are a team here, a theme. Sorry, Nazis. The team is a Freudian slip, I guess, for some reason. I don't know. It just occurred to me. So panic, people running away, tripping, stomping on each other in the middle of this barbecue smell. So the handmaids release the other dragons. The Dothraki and Beloas start swinging their swords, araks, or shooting arrows at various random masters in Astapor. See, they were all informed of the plan in advance. Everyone was informed. Everyone super prepared and coordinated. Wait, does that mean that Arstan, a.k.a. Whitebeard, was the only person not in the loop? What's that about? Oh, that must have been humiliating. Well, of course, the readers were not in the loop either, because big twist here. Anyway, so it's a proper massacre in the Plaza of Pride today. They're going to have to rename that plaza, I'm telling you. And the Unsullied don't even lift a finger to defend the masters because they're not their masters anymore. And besides, they haven't received an order yet from their new master, Dany. And when she does issue an order, it's to tell them this: slay the good masters, slay the soldiers, slay every man. Oh, there are other soldiers then. Well, there you go. Well, maybe like private, bodyguards, I guess, to the masters. Slay every man who wears a tokar, which is a garment, only worn by masters in this city, or holds a whip, which means that the person owns slaves. But harm no child under 12, and strike the chains off every slave you see. Which really must have been a bit difficult to implement, logistically. Because, the part where they might have to stop every teenager they see and go, hang on, sir, are you below the age of 12? License and registration, please. Not to mention the striking off of every chain, which I imagine would take some proper tools. You can't just do it with a sword, no matter how many times you see that in movies. But anyway, it's all one big orgy of dust, spears, and fire, and with Daenerys shouting Dracarys a few more times. And that's where this chapter ends. Wow, yeah? Did you see that coming? I'm asking you, dear listener, in case you happen to be a first-time reader. I loved it. What did you think of that, huh? And I guess not just because mathematically we have literally reached 1/3 of this novel at chapter 27, but because it feels like it, to me anyway. It feels like this chapter kind of like concludes Act 1 of 3, if you want to view this book as a 3-act sort of play. And so curtains. Clap, clap, clap. Let's go to the foyer for a glass of the old Bellini and Cosmopolitan. So where is everybody at? I'm talking about POV characters, yeah? Pretty much on a cliffhanger, really, because Jon is about to scale the wall with the wildlings. Davos is awaiting his fate in a cell, and he may or may not be executed by Stannis for trying to whack Melisandre. Arya is still basically a captive in the hands of the Brotherhood without banners, and she may be taken to Sir Dondarrion. Jamie may or may not have lost a hand, courtesy of Vargo Holt. Catelyn has just witnessed her son Robb execute Karstark, so she knows that the Karstarks are now her enemies of the Starks. Who else? Tyrion. Okay, Tyrion has just been informed that he will marry Sansa Stark. The latter having no idea, even though she has just been fitted for a new gown provided by Queen Cersei, and we know it's going to be her wedding dress. While things up north have taken a positively horror movie turn, as poor Samuel has just barely escaped the others with his life and managed to kill one in the process. So well done there. And who's left? Oh yeah, Bran Stark. Yeah, he just keeps heading north. Yeah, there's not much new there. It just keeps going north in his mysterious quest. Wow. What a roller coaster. All right, dear listener. Well, thank you for following me this far for what is now 1 hour and 1 minute. That means if we're still together, you and I, here in this, so far in this rambling of mine, it means I must be doing something right. So tell you what, if you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to do the things that people do under such circumstances, and feel free to navigate to the next or the previous A Storm of Swords chapter, and or the next or the previous Daenerys, if that is your interest, if that's the kind of plot. Feel free to go anywhere or nowhere at all. Absolute freedom. As for me, I look forward to talking to you again next time. Bye bye. Ciao.